There's been some good news coming out of DC Comics, which I'm very, very surprised about. I actually really like Jeremy Adams, and I've read his work. I haven't read actually any of the DC stuff. I know that Wes from Thinking Critical is a big fan of his Green Lantern. I've read his Flash Gordon over at Mad Cave Studios. I just don't read a lot of Marvel and DC comics. The Flash Gordon stuff's phenomenal. I mean, he really does the action adventure really, really well, and he's done great work on that front. And so this is it. He got a new deal exclusive to DC Comics this weekend, which we'll go over in just a moment. And I asked him directly, I said, will he be writing Flash Gordon? Will that be the end of it? He actually answered and said, yes, he will. That's not going to impact things, which is great news, and also cool. I'm very happy to have a DC Comics pro who's not just like rude or blocks me for asking a question. That's like a check mark right there in his favor a lot of the time. So we're going to get into this in just a moment and talk about everything that's going on with DC Comics and the other news with Batman as well. So hit the like and subscribe button as we talk about all things comics here, my friends. Really appreciate you for being here. And please sign up for my newsletter. I am a comic creator myself and blacklisted from the mainstream industry, of course. And this is a $50 value right here just for signing up. You get Flying Sparks, which starts off my superhero universe. I think you'll really like it if you're a fan of Jeremy Adams, especially the Cosmic Warrior stuff, which you can get into once you start reading. But Flying Sparks Volume 1's right here. It's a 5-volume series, and it all starts. You get the full graphic novel. Plus, you get a science fiction novel and a fantasy novel, which I really appreciate you guys for signing up. I have a ton of stuff coming out this year. We just delivered the Emerald Array digitally yesterday, and backers love it. They've really enjoyed the book so far. Thank you guys for all the kind compliments on that. I know that we just keep hitting it out of the park better and better with each release, and that's what we aim to do, just keep getting better. And it seems like DC might be finally on that track as well. And so they've got Jeremy Adams, who's been doing some wonderful stuff. He's been doing Green Lantern. They gave him a little bit of Flash, and then they gave him Aquaman, which he claimed was a challenge, which we'll get into also. And he's been quite the bright spot for DC Comics over the last year or two. This guy just has done very, very well. He came from like Teen Titans Go, I guess, and was writing some of those Hollywood shows and did pretty well with that. So they transitioned him over to comics, and God bless them. They seem to have done a good job and found somebody who actually likes comics for once. I actually posted this article early today, and Chuck Dixon saw this. He's all, hey, that looks like somebody who actually enjoys comics. It's like, yeah, it's kind of surprising because a lot of times, it seems like at these companies that they hire people who specifically don't like the properties, in order to, I guess, do a different, quote, spin on them. It's very, very weird. But people like this do a typically good job in the comic industry. It goes all the way back. If you look at just the storied history of comics, Roy Thomas was kind of a fan. And then you get into Mark Grunwald, who was a huge fan, running fanzines, making his own history of the Marvel Universe, and almost autistically, and that's what made his stuff so good. Comics really thrive on people who actually like comics. Shocker, right? And Chuck Dixon's another one. He's a veritable treasure trove of history of comics. If you don't know, that guy actually knows more than anything. You got to watch his channel, the Chuck Dixon Presents stuff. Really good stuff. So Jeremy Adams is now exclusive with DC Comics. So what does that mean? And that's a big deal. DC Comics has been making a bunch of bold moves lately. Obviously, they know the All-In initiative's been out there, helmed by Scott Snyder and Joshua Williamson. Absolute Batman is selling like crazy. It is. I'll give it that. I don't like it, but I understand why people do like it. So it makes sense. Just doesn't feel like Batman to me, so I just am not into it. But I understand it, and it's not for me. It's one of those ones where it's actually not for me, I guess, and I'm okay with it because it is competently done. There's a very different thing than that it's not for you, identity politics stuff, which is another story. But Scott Snyder is doing a competent job. I just am not into it, and that's fine. So the rest of the line is being upheld by that, and what I'm understanding is not much is really selling very well from local comic shop owners who have talked to me, except for the Absolute line at DC Comics, which makes a lot of sense. Though there is a lot of good stuff coming on right now. Honestly, anything by Jeremy Adams, like I said, the guy's competent. I would recommend going there. John Layman's Titans is pretty good too. And so they've actually done some decent stuff. Next year, it's going to get even better. I know there's a Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb Batman miniseries coming out. That's going to be huge. That's going to be epic. We also know that Batman now has Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez on the book. I'm actually pretty optimistic about that. It's a pretty good pairing, I think, for a Batman title, and I think they're going to do a really good job of it. It's got me I'm sitting here going, wow, DC's actually doing some good things. Now, they're doing some stupid things, too. They've got Sophie Campbell coming out on Supergirl. I might make a whole video on that because, I want to rant about Supergirl. If you've watched this channel for a while, you know I'm, the only Supergirl fan out there. And they never do Supergirl right. And this is going to be another one where they never do Supergirl right again. Oh, well, it's another story. But Jeremy Adams is another spot here where Green Lantern's been very, very popular among fans, highly reviewed. Aquaman just came out. It's got good reviews, too. It just came out last month. And yeah, he seems to be just killing it. And it's like I said, I've read his Flash Gordon that's been ongoing at Mad Cave Studios, and it's just brilliant stuff. He's just crushed it on Flash Gordon, and I'm glad that's continuing. So here's what he told Screen Rant when he started Aquaman. He said, "It's hard. I think it's a hard character." And this is where it gets really interesting. He said before this in the interview that he's following in Jeff Johns' footsteps, doing Green Lantern, then Aquaman, and pretty funny because Jeff Johns did that very clearly. He said he talked to Jeff Johns about it, and he, I'd say his writing can be likened a little bit to Jeff Johns, a little different, but not a bad career to follow, right? And so funny stuff on that level. But references some of the best Green Lantern and understanding Green Lantern. But listen to this here. I think the continuity of the character has many different things over the years, like Peter David's continuity. Peter David did the best Aquaman run out there. And so he clearly knows his comic books and is clearly paying attention to the continuity and the history of the characters, which is what sets Jeremy apart from other creators out there. I can tell the same thing because I've actually read all the Flash Gordon Sunday serials back in the day. There's a beautiful Library of American Comics collection out of those, if you can find them. They are oversized, they're huge, they're hard to find, but I've read them, and so I actually knew the history of Flash Gordon pretty well, which a lot of people don't know, and so he actually nailed it pretty well in the Mad Cave Studio stuff, and that's why I was very, very impressed. You can tell just by the names he's dropping here that he understands comics, he's a comics fan, and he loves comics, and this is why it's working very well. So he says he's taken this as a challenge for Aquaman, which is not traditionally a popular character, right? And it is difficult to make an Aquaman book go. So let's see how that goes as he goes over the course of it. Without a popular character, but we can count on him doing a good job just from the things he's said so far. So here's DC's press release. Prescott, Arizona native and Los Angeles resident, valuable contributor to DC's publishing plans this year. Adams is writing several titles, a new Aquaman ongoing series, as well as a Green Lantern series. And then Adams is co-writing DC's recently launched Green Lantern Corps, which is great that he's actually keeping his hand in the Corps and also with Green Lantern itself, because that ties the continuity together. Again, very continuity focused. Good stuff. The multi-year deal follows Adams' incredibly successful 35-issue run on The Flash and his trio of popular series, a key DC publishing events such as Dark Crisis and Absolute Power. As a fan first, I've a long time admired DC's legacy, he says. It's an honor to follow in the footsteps of luminaries who words have thrilled, entertained, and inspired me since my earliest days. It's a joy to bring these characters to life, to craft new twists, powers, and adventures, and provide the same level of imaginative entertainment. Just positive stuff here, and I'm liking it. So this is where he's come from the past. He's been in DC animation, scripted 3 key films, Batman Soul of Dragons, Batman and Superman Battle of the Super Sons, great one right there, and contributed to the vignettes Justice Society World War II, and he also animated DC showcase Blue Beetle. Batman Soul of the Dragons still is 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So they give some of his background on this stuff. Good stuff. They also say that he's going to be working on an upcoming DC event, which is really cool. You never know how people are going to do with events. Sometimes people do solo books pretty well and don't do team books well. Events are kind of a different ballgame. But if anybody can do a good job on that sort of thing, I think Jeremy Adams should get a shot at it because he understands all the continuity. He understands the nuance of the characters and the DC universe. So this is possibly something really good as a start. I hope they really lift his profile quite a bit, and I hope he becomes the most successful writer at DC Comics because, frankly, he deserves it so far. So this is something that is some positive news coming out of DC Comics. Like I said, Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez on Batman, I think, is another good move that's starting in 2025. It looks like DC's almost getting their acts together. Of course, they're still trying the same old things. And this is the thing. They use characters like Supergirl to push this kind of stuff. because Supergirl is something that's not going to sell anyway, basically. And so it's like, we'll put this person over here and we'll get our virtue points. They just need to stop doing that, and then the line will be clean, and just like cut those titles. I think Rob Liefeld made a comment about needing to cut like half of the X-Men titles and just pare it down. I kind of feel that way about Marvel and DC. They've got too many books. There's no reason to have all these characters have their own books like this. It's just a mess half the time, and you only have a certain number of talented people who are that good to be able to do things. But that's another rant for another time. This is it. This is Jeremy Adams, signed to DC Comics. I love it. What do you think? Have you been reading his stuff whatsoever? Let me know in the description below. Love to hear from you. Hit the like and subscribe button and make sure to sign up for my newsletter. And thank you guys for being here.